the Wawiatanong, home to the Three Fires Council, including the Chippewa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples. I acknowledge their presence, affirm Indigenous sovereignty, and honor the many Native communities in the Great Lakes region that thrive. This webinar is offered jointly through two of Wolf Brown's programs. Our Audience Outlook Monitor community provides free professional development programming, including a number of webinars every year. And we're also pleased to have this webinar through our Immersed in the Future program, which is a relatively new program at Wolf Brown, which aims to support nonprofit arts and cultural organizations navigate the crazy space of augmented, immersive, and VR experiences. If you are listening to the recording of this and you've not yet signed up, you can go to the wolfbrown.com website and under newsletters sign up for Audience Outlook Monitor or Immersed in the Future, or both. We are recording this session and we'll post the link to the recording on the Audience Outlook Monitor website under the community activities. And we'll also post a link to it on LinkedIn. So with all of that introduction, I have the great pleasure to introduce a wonderful friend and colleague, Jordi Celis, who's joining us from Barcelona. Jordi, say hello.
Hi, hello. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Gosh, Jordi, I've known you for probably 10 years or more. Yeah. When I met you, I think you were Deputy Minister of Culture for Catalonia.
Yep.
Is that correct?
That's right. That's right.
So a high-flying policymaker, and then Jordi moved on and has become this amazing cultural entrepreneur. Among the many hats he wears, one of the reasons we know each other is we both are guest lecturers at the Accademia Teatro alla Scala in Milan, Italy, where I often run into Jordi once a year teaching at the wonderful arts administration program there. Jordi is a theater producer. Jordi, maybe you could just tell people a little bit about your theater producing work in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I have this musical theater production company based in Barcelona that basically we produce stage musicals. We do Spanish version of the musicals, the big musicals that we love. And we open in Barcelona. We do a whole season in Barcelona of our musicals, and then we move to Madrid, which, as you know, is the capital of Spain. And then we do another season there, and then we do what is called like the Spanish tour. So it's almost, something that works in a yearly basis. So we produce a new musical every year. Basically, we produce musicals that we love. So we started the company with La Cage aux Folles, which has been, with the Spanish version of La Cage aux Folles, which has been on stage for almost 5 years between Barcelona, Madrid, and touring, which has been a huge success. Wow. We have produced Little Shop of Horrors. We produced Singing in the Rain, and which has been like, now is still on tour around Spain. So we closed Bilbao, which is the capital of the Basque Country, last weekend, and now we are in the middle of the production of our next big musical, stage musical, The Producers, which is a musical that I really love, and will be opening. I want to be a producer. Yeah, it's the Spanish version of The Producers that will be opening in Barcelona in September. But one of the most special musicals that I have produced is Next to Normal, which I have produced 2 times. Yeah, I produced twice. First, the traditional stage production in 2017. Like the normal Next to Normal show in Spanish, so it was called Casi Normales. And then last summer we produced Next to Normal Immersive, which is the immersive version of Next to Normal with the original Broadway cast, Alice Ripley, and a version made by the original authors of the show.
Right. So I think, I want to be a producer would be a great title for this webinar, because I think a lot of people want to be producers of immersive experiences.
Yeah.
And it's it's a bit mysterious for a lot of people. So hopefully by the end we'll shed some light on how you have gotten into immersive. So I just wanted everyone to know that Jordi's a theatrical producer, in addition to being the founder and leader of Ideal Barcelona, which is, well, I'll let you introduce us, please, to Ideal.
Yeah.
And Anik, if you could put the link to Ideal in the chat, again, if people could check it out while Jordi is introducing the Ideal project.
Yes. We started at the same time, the theater production company and the immersive production studio at the same time. So everything happened around 2016 when I left the government. And as you may know, in Europe, basically the big budget of culture and arts goes managed by governments. And in Spain, especially autonomous governments manage the big part of the public budget, which is huge. So I was working as a public elected charge during those years. And after those 4 years, I tried to decide exactly what was more interesting for me after being 4 years in working for like everyone. And I decided to work in the two things that I love more, which is live arts and technology. Yeah. So I love the theater, so that's why I created the theater production company. And then I really love technology that connects people. And at that time, virtual reality was something really like starting. Yeah, at that time, 2016, 2017, Samsung presented these first goggles that were like a mobile phone wrapped just in front of your eyes, but it was just it was called Samsung Gear, but it was like the first step. The company called Oculus, that then was bought by Facebook, that then changed the name and it was called Meta. They presented these glasses called Oculus and then Oculus Rift, which were like the first high profile virtual reality goggles to be used at home. So virtual reality was the thing for me. So it was theater on one hand and virtual reality. Everything started there. Virtual reality has a lot of possibilities in terms of audiovisual creation, but at the same time has a unique possibility to create sensations into ourselves, like human beings, like we are, in terms of just live arts can do. This is something really, really special, because at some point when you watch a movie, you go to a cinema theater or you are at home in your big TV screen at home, you always feel that you're watching something. You're watching a rectangle on your wall, or you're watching a big rectangle on a big wall in a cinema, but it is always the same. You are inside the movie, but all the time you know that you are, a spectator of that. When you go into virtual reality, you really are inside a kind of a world that you don't really at some point can decide if that is, your reality or not. That's why it was so interesting for me. And that's why we started working specifically for Teatro alla Scala, for example, in Milano, with Samsung at that time wasn't a sponsor. And I remember that Teatro alla Scala created, together with Arte, the arts European TV channel, they created let's say a virtual reality recording of an opera. It was Elisir d'Amore, that was the opera that chose that time. And you could just watch the opera with your goggles and then feel that you were really inside, the theater or the backstage, or some part of that opera was shot on the airport of Malpensa in Milano. So that experience really opened my eyes. I said, okay, we can find a link between live arts and immersive kind of technology. Together at that time, what we call the indoor mapping started to be not just a big thing, but started to be a small thing that was, prepared to be something big. I'm talking about all this. Mapping? Yeah, it's like, mapping, it was from, late, the first decade of this century. It started like something that people were doing for special events, like big buildings. You have big projectors and you project nice things on the walls of this big building. So they started like mapping festivals around the world, like opening events, opening ceremonies for, I don't know, the Olympics or the World Cup or something like this. So mapping was something that was really a big thing,
Right.
like more than 10 years ago, but just for big events. So you were projecting audiovisual things mapped on different surfaces, like big buildings, walls, or maybe big stadiums or big venues where you were doing a concert or a big event. But this kind of mapping started to be used indoor, inside. So you could use those projectors to project walls inside the building, connected together as just one screen that was surrounding the visitor or the spectator,
Right.
and creating this sensation that was not exactly the sensation that virtual reality was creating, but it was very near that. And
Right.
at that time, more or less, all these big immersive events started. Van Gogh immersive, the big Monet immersive, the Klim, all these things started at
Right.
that time. So we were there. So we
They
already started at that time.
they were also projecting on the floor at Van
Exactly.
Gogh.
So you have walls, you have the floor, some of them have the ceiling, but at the end they are using the same technology. In fact, it's mapping technology. So you map a surface, you map a room, and with that room, you can create a screen. And with that screen, which is all the surface that surrounds you, the
Right.
ceiling, the floor, the walls, it depends on the venue, then you can create this
Right.
immersive feeling that you are inside. And the first thing that started there were, impressionist painters like Van Gogh or like Monet.
Right.
And we were there. So we created Ideal. In fact, we created the studio called Layers of Reality. This is the name of our studio. So because we create layers of reality to create immersive projects that can be running like traditional exhibitions in more or less the same circuit that the traditional exhibitions were touring around the world, but with this kind of technology. And everything started around 2006, 2017. Nobody knew at that time that this would have been, become the big thing that we have today with these immersive venues and immersive productions.
So how did you find Ideal as a facility? Tell people a little about it.
Yeah, when we started Layers of Reality, we were really absolutely convinced that this technology would be really helpful for traditional museums and heritage places to reach to a kind of audience that they didn't have, younger audiences or audiences that are not really, really interested exactly in going to a museum. Maybe they find that visit a little bit boring. So this could add a layer of content, an interesting layer of content that can get wider, kind of audience going to the museums or to heritage places. You know that Italy, Spain, France are like the top countries in the world with UNESCO heritage sites, things like this. So we have heritage sites like almost everywhere, but almost all these places are empty. Some of them have everyone, like, in Barcelona, Sagrada Familia, everybody will go there.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of heritage places that nobody goes. So you can add this layer of content there, and we will make this was our promise. We will make your heritage venue or your heritage place or your museum much more interesting. What happened? That nobody was listening to us. So they were saying, okay, this is, we're heritage managers. So this is like digital things, projecting things on our venue. I mean, thank you. You're a very nice guy, but we don't want to work with that because we have enough work in all the things that we do. So after a year and a half of getting literally zero business, so selling nothing, after creating the studio, we said, okay, we need to decide. Okay, we close the studio, we close the company, or we do something radically different. And this thing that we did was find our own venue and open our own venue, saying, okay, we will try to demonstrate that this vision that we have can really work. And we found this beautiful old cinema theater. It was opened in 1917 in Barcelona, so more than 100 years ago. This cinema was closed for more than 10 years. So it was like this building that every city has, this big old building that was a cinema, but nobody is going anymore to this big 2,000 seats cinema. So we transformed that old building into Ideal. Ideal was the original name. It's a very traditional name for movie theaters in Spain by the beginning of the 20th century. You have an Ideal cinema like in almost every big town. Yeah. So we're keeping the name, and what we said is what we're doing here is something in the middle of the future of movie theaters and in the middle of museums. Yeah, the future of museums and the future of movie theaters is what we do here. It's half exhibition, half audiovisual.
Right. So I remember you telling me a wonderful story about having a Monet, an immersive Monet exhibition, and then having someone brought a real Monet painting into
Yeah.
the immersive. Tell us that story.
Yeah, you know what happens is that everybody really loves the immersive experiences the first time they go, just for the technology and for the feeling they have.
Right.
The
Ooh, wow,
challenge is the
it's so
challenge is follow that. Yeah, but the first time, I mean, it's always, Alan, is always the same. First time is always the first time. So when you go to for the first time to an immersive venue, and we open with Monet, the immersive experience with all the paintings related to Claude Monet, the famous impressionist French painter. So people were like amazed, we're like crazy. It was the first time that something like this was happening, so it was so huge the success that we have just from day one. When we opened this venue, you have to think that in Barcelona is not a big city, but this venue is just on the part of the city that nobody really goes, just for people from Barcelona. When you say the district that we are is like really far away, so we don't really, it's not the place that you really want to go because it's like far away from downtown. So when we opened that place, I said, okay, are you sure to do this investment and to do all this thing in that place there? And we did it, and it was full, sold out from day one because of that experience. And the nice thing that happened is that one day a very kind lady asked for the manager or for someone managing that place, because at that time we were just 4 people working there. And uh, she asked for someone, and she told us, okay, I have an original Monet at home. It's just one of the few Monet that you can find privately owned
right.
in Catalonia. So I can give you my Monet to be exposed here with you, to be used as an exhibition. So I can let you, have my Monet for 6 months, because it will be a pleasure for me,
Wow.
to have this original work that I have at home shared with everyone coming to this wonderful exhibition. And at that time I said, okay, we don't have enough security inside here to
Right.
have like I don't know, a multi-million-dollar painting, so we need, but it was a huge opportunity, because at that time, after 3-4 months after the opening, this was like a really good PR move, just to have a Monet that nobody knows that is really here. So to show that Monet for the first time, it was really huge. So we spend money in security, we spend money in insurances and all the things that you have to
Wow.
do when you have this kind of piece of art. And we did, the original Monet exhibition together with the immersive and digital.
Well, it's so interesting because you mash together two different modalities of
Yeah.
experiencing art, right? And you kind of put them together, and you forced people to think about, what is real, what is not, what is entertaining, what is not. And because I think a lot of museums look down their noses about immersive exhibitions, but you actually brought the two together. That's fascinating. So Jordi,
Thank you.
let's think a little bit about programming at Ideal, because you started, as you said, with Monet, which was a visual art, right? But you've gotten into performing arts programming. Tell us a little bit about programming in general. How, do you run out and find programs? Do you create original programs? How do you work programming?
Yeah. Basically, the business model that you have in a digital art center like this is ticket selling. So you need to sell tickets. Then, of course, you have some sponsors, then you have some merchandising and shop sales. But basically, you need to sell tickets, which is basically what you do when you do theater. I mean, when you produce theater, you need to sell tickets. Yeah. The good thing, or the different thing that you have together with the theater, is that when you do a theater show, you have that theater and that show, you have all the seats, and the seats that you're not selling and that show are never sold, so this is something that you have to do that show at 8 a.m. Or at 9 p.m. and you have that show. The good thing when you're coming from the live arts is that when you own a digital art center, you open 10 in the morning, I close 10 at night, and you have people coming the whole day, and you have a lot of stock of tickets to be sold. And of course, some days when you open a new show, you are sold out for the whole day for a month or a couple of months, and that is great. But then you have a long running time that is very different in terms of costs, that I'm getting really, I would
No,
say,
this is
really,
really helpful.
really professional in these terms, because I understand that this conversation is for professionals of arts management. So the difference that you have is that you can sell a lot of more tickets during a lot of more time. Of course, the average ticket price is a little bit lower than the one you have in a live show, but it's really good because it's complementary. So you can do, from 10 a.m. in the morning to, let's say, 6 p.m. in the afternoon, and then you can do a live show there, and the mix is perfect because you can use the same room to do both. And this is the good thing that you can have, so you can get the best of an exhibition kind of management of the venue, and then you can add the live performance in that. And this was something that we had very clear from the beginning, that we wanted to mix exhibition kind of business model with live arts, live performance kind of business model. But we needed to start selling a lot of tickets of our exhibitions because this was the first step. So we did Monet, we did Klimt. Both were a huge success, and they share a same characteristic, which is that there are not royalties to be paid for these artists. Some people may think, why there are so many Van Gogh immersive, why there are so many Klimt or Monet or whatever, because you don't have to pay royalties to no one, because these artists died a long time ago, so there are no royalty management anymore. So you can use any Van Gogh painting that you want, you can use any Monet painting that you want, you can use any Klimt work or whatever, that you don't have to go to someone to ask for permission to do that. So this is interesting, and this explains why there are all this amount of Van Gogh, different Van Gogh Alive, Van Gogh Immersive Experience, Van Gogh I don't know what, Van Gogh, that. You don't need to really, be sure that you're working with that.
So,
but
Jordi, just want to go one. There's one fundamental difference here, because I imagine a number of people on this webinar have black box spaces in their facilities, or they have access to, for example, flat floor warehouse spaces, and they're thinking, gosh, should I devote some number of months every year to doing immersive programming? What would I have to do to make that work? But were you able to extend the run of Monet or Klimt? If a show is doing really well, can you run it longer, or do you have to end it?
Yeah, this is a great question, because one of the good things of this kind of shows is that you can extend the duration of the show as long as you keep having audience, if you have, a good rental, let's say, agreement with the venue. An example, for example, when we went out of this, non-royalty artists like Monet, Van Gogh, this one, so we jumped into royalty artists, which gives you, let's say, bigger control on that brand, and that you can tour around the world without having another show like this together with you. I would say Frida Kahlo, I would say Salvador Dali. Yeah, Dali is like one of the biggest Catalan surrealist artists, so it's like a local artist for us. Yeah. So we got this deal with the Dali Foundation to create this show called Dali Cybernetics, which is the show that now we still have. It was supposed to close in February, but the show is going so well that we extended until June, and now we're extending until August because the show. And this doesn't mean that you can do, let's say, parallel programming at night with live shows or other things. So you can keep, as a manager of a venue, because here I can speak like a producer, but also as a venue manager. So as a venue manager, you have like your secure kind of income, like every day, because the show is going well, and at the same time you can afford program more risky things in your night program or in other kind of programs. And this is really good. In fact, we're doing this. We're managing a venue also in Madrid with some partners in called Madrid Artes Digitales. We're running with other partners the venue in London called in the Boiler House in Shoreditch. And together we're running these shows that we have produced, like Dali Cybernetics, like Frida Kahlo, like Klimt, the immersive experience, everywhere in the world, from, I don't know, from Montreal to New York to Los Angeles to Sydney to Singapore to Tel Aviv or Brussels, London. Yeah.
Wait a minute. So you originated the Dali exhibition, like
Exactly.
you created it, you produced it, and now you're cloning it.
Exactly.
For facilities around the world.
Yeah. This links with your question before, and I think that this is a very interesting point in this kind of exhibitions, which is when you were creating traditional exhibitions, you were supposed to build an exhibition to have some original objects, let's say, I don't know, paintings or props or something. And this, let's say, I don't know, an original Dali painting exhibition or an original, I don't know, the bodies exhibition. You remember that exhibition with human bodies, thanks.
Yeah.
Or you remember the Xi'an warriors, exhibition. So you need to send this exhibition with, I don't know, a boat or something, or a plane or something around the world to set up the exhibition somewhere and to do the exhibition. And then you wrap everything and then you take everything to another place. And it's really expensive and not very sustainable. Yeah, you're traveling around the world with huge things and it's kind of difficult. So immersive exhibitions, for example, when we did this, our Frida Kahlo immersive biography last January at Sydney Festival, for example, we opened in an incredible, nice, beautiful 5,000 square meters venue in Sydney. I mean, we just traveled there, the team of Layers of Reality, 10 days before the opening, because all the work was done, in distance from Barcelona to Sydney, preparing all the blueprints, all the setup, all the technology. The technology is local. You don't need to send the technology with plane or boat or something, because everywhere in the world you can find truss columns and structures. You can find projectors. It's more or less like that. So you can find virtual reality glasses. So we can work with people very far away from us, just preparing the setup, and then we just go there to really do, the final preparation of the show and the fine tuning of the show, which makes everything much more affordable for everyone. Yeah.
Right.
Alan, there's a question in the chat.
Yes.
From Robert. I think that's somewhat related. Can you license the digital work and sell it to other venues?
Yes, in fact, this is what we do. So we have what I say 3 different kinds of business model that we have created, because we're like walking on an explored land here. So when we talk to a promoter from, I don't know, another part of the world, we start learning about how can we manage this kind of relationship. So after these 4 years of working with this, we have realized that in fact we're working in 3 different kinds of business model. The first one is managing the venues ourselves. So the things that we do, for example, in these European, more near kind of venues, that we rent the venue or we'll work together with some local partners. The second one is the license. So we license our content to venues or promoters from everywhere in the world. Now, for example, our Frida Kahlo show is open in Sao Paulo in Brazil, is open in Lisbon, is open in I forgot the play, but is open in Sydney. It closed a few weeks ago. So we license the content. Yeah. For example, our Dali Cybernetic show is open now in Tel Aviv in Israel. It will be opening in Brussels and in Copenhagen and in Buenos Aires during next month. So we license the content in a very similar way, because I'm coming from the theater world. So I'm using theater context and theater way of work to, license this kind of content. And the third way the third business model that we have is the full sale of the show. So for example, there are some countries or some regions of the world that are so specific that you cannot really, let's say, I want to be very sensitive with this word, you cannot control exactly what's happening with the box office or how many people are coming to your show. Or, I mean, it's really difficult to keep that kind of control in, because I don't know, maybe you just cannot read what the numbers that you have of the weekly box office or something like this. So in these areas, we prefer to sell out the whole show, for a period of time, and there's just a close amount of money and we have it. So 3 ways: running ourselves, the venue, licensing the content and get the revenue share of the box office, and sell, the whole show for a specific market.
So
there's one other question. Sorry. Is there a minimum square footage needed to make this successful?
Yeah, you need to think that if you want to build an immersive room, the immersive room needs to make people immersed. Yeah, so you cannot do it in a small place, because if you have a small place, the most you can get is like a non-very, let's say, pleasant experience. Yeah, so said that, yeah, we have built immersive rooms in incredible places. Yeah, so for example, what I would recommend is like 6 meters high of ceiling. 6 meters is enough. Of course, we have venues of 10 meters, which are just spectacular, but 6 meters is more than enough. And the room needs to be at least of 400 square meters. This is my recommendation and how we do our shows. Mm-hmm. But last week, for example, we opened an immersive room in a just 3.5 meters height ceiling in a place in Barcelona, and the room is just 200 square meters. And if you do a good job designing the projector and the style of the room, the feeling is also really good. The problem that you have is that you cannot, let's say, have enough people inside. If you want to keep the immersive feeling, you cannot put the amount of people that maybe will make that business really work. Yeah, so that is the thing. You need to balance the smaller the room, but it's the same like in theater. I mean, if you have a 200 seats theater, you can produce shows and you can have shows for 200 people. Yeah, so if you have a bigger venue, you can do it. My recommendation for the shows that we do, there's no standard around, but my recommendation as a standard is at least 400 square meters and 6 meters height, the immersive room. Then you have other rooms like virtual reality, like metaverse room, like exhibition room. So my recommendation is always try to find at least 1,000 square meters venue. Yeah, 1,000 square meters. It can be in 2 floors, for example. We have venues in 2 floors or just 1 floor, but 1,000 is at least what we need. If you go to European cities, if you want to be downtown in an European city, the square meter is like super difficult to find and super expensive. Right. If you go outside cities, for example, in United States, you have cities that are not, at all similar to the European cities. So there are big spaces outside the cities with big parking lots in front. So then it's much more easy to find, big right. places. Yeah. I'm sorry, because I'm talking about square meters, because I never know how to talk about square feet, because I don't know what a feet is, and I don't know how to calculate that. So I'm talking like let's say, European. I'm sorry about that.
So Jordi, I want to move into immersive theatrical experiences.
Yeah.
We have now opening on Broadway the production Here Lies Love, which I believe was they spent tens of millions of dollars remaking a theater. Also, we have an immersive production of Guys and Dolls in London.
Near here. Yeah.
Tell us about your production of Next to Normal, and a little about whether you think immersive theatrical has a future as a format.
Yeah, I think that when we started to do our immersive exhibitions, at the same moment, we started to do live performance inside the immersive arts venue. This was something very natural for us. So what we did in the beginning, the easiest thing, let's say easy, if that can be called easy, which is music, live music. So we started with concerts. Yeah. So we started with classical music concerts with projections around. Then we moved to electronic music. So we have this DJs live with live digital artists, which is this is the next step. So it's not like that you're projecting a movie while someone is playing something. Is that the digital visual artist is creating content, a visual experience at the same time as the musical performer is performing. So everything is performed live, and that show can just be lived at that time. Yeah. So we started with music and it worked really well. Then we jumped into contemporary dance.
Huh?
We did, because it's perfect, because it's like very abstract. So we did that. We worked with a local company, and we created a performance that was, they were connected, their bodies, they were trackers, so the whole room was like moving at the same time that they were moving. This show was called Sokyo. It was amazing. It was a family show, so kids were like on the floor dancing with them, and while the artists were dancing, the whole room was moving, and the colors and everything was amazing. Then we tried theater, like drama theater, which was good, but not enough. And then we jumped into our big production, which was Next to Normal Immersive. Yeah, Next to Normal Immersive was a production that opened last July in Barcelona. It was open for 6 weeks together with the Barcelona International Summer Festival. And what we did with Next to Normal, as a theater producer, I produced the stage show of Next to Normal in 2017. So I knew very well the show. And what we did together with our co-producer, Pablo Del Campo, was talk to the original creators of the show. So Tom Kidd and Brian Yorkie. And we asked them a question, which at that time, maybe because this was 2019. And we said, okay, you wanted to create the sensation that you were inside Diana's mind, Diana Goodman, Diana Goodman, the main character of Next to Normal, when you were on the stage show. Yeah, so the stage show was happening inside Diana's mind. This is difficult to do, but that was the thing. So we have a way to put the audience inside Diana Goodman's mind, which is our immersive venue. And we send them some pictures and some videos of the venue. They were amazed about the idea. And we told them, okay, we need a shorter version of the show, because it's not the same to be sitting on a room like in a normal theater room, or sitting in an immersive room, which you have a lot of, graphics and lights and everything, and the seats are not so comfortable. So we asked them for a shorter version of Next to Normal. We said around 60 minutes, which sounds a little bit crazy, because imagine yourself asking a Pulitzer Prize award writer and music composer, say, okay, this play is really good, but can you do it shorter for me? Yeah. So this is what we did. And they were like absolutely generous with us. And they said, okay, we will do it. And they created a special version of Next to Normal, like a shorter version, to be played inside our immersive room. Then we called Alice Ripley. We said, what, we can lose nothing. So we called Alice Ripley and said, okay, imagine that you are a Tony Award, actress who won the Tony Award for this special role. Say, Alice, do you want to come to Barcelona, spend with us a few months in a kind of a lab that we will try to do this thing with technology and with you singing? And she was absolutely generous also at that time. I said, okay, I want to come. I want to play with you. I want to do, this project with you. And I don't know, maybe some of the people that are now connected with us came to see our show last summer. But every day when I enter our immersive room, doesn't matter the show that we have now, I still remember those incredible moments where music and visuals and live performance and singing linked together and created a very, very, very special communion of audience and artists at the same time. So this is something that was impossible to be done in a theater. This is something that was impossible to be done anywhere else than in this room. And this is what makes sense for me. I mean, it's not trying to take theater out of the normal theaters. It's about creating something that just can be, experienced there. And for these immersive shows that you're saying, for example, Guys and Dolls, or, Here's Lies Love, or, a lot of different shows that are happening. In fact, for me, they are not exactly the same. I mean, these kind of shows are following the immersive shows that we've been living in theater for a long time. Theater, or let's say para theater. Yeah, like for example, when you go to see shows like Sleep No More, or Burn City, these shows that you get into a place and the actors are like surrounding you and you start, living an experience together with them. This is something that's happening like forever. I mean, these kind of shows exist like for a long time. So, and they are really good. And I think that this is a trend that will be growing during the next years. But this thing that we're doing is adding a layer of digital arts into live performance that's really meaningful for the story. It's not just about being inside and having the artists around you. It's about creating something that just makes sense because you're doing it this way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really important distinction. There's people who are kind of remaking theaters so the audience, some people can move and stand and be closer, but it's not necessarily connecting them to the story in the same way as Next to Normal. So, Jordi, after you closed Next to Normal, I know there was not an international tour. It was difficult to find spaces where that show could go. And I'm wondering, I think some of the people on this webinar are kind of wondering when can a show like Next to Normal come to my black box space or my immersive space? What's the future? How long will it be before presenters in the United States and other countries will be able to have shows like Next to Normal?
I think it will happen soon because these kind of immersive venues are growing everywhere in the world. So if you want to make a movie and make that movie sell thousands of millions around the world, you need movie theaters around the world to show the movie.
Right.
If you want to do a theater play or a concert, you need stadiums or venues, sports arenas to do the next Coldplay kind of world tour or something. Yeah. So if you want to do a tour with an immersive show, you cannot afford build an immersive venue just to do a live show. It's impossible. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. What it makes sense is what we have and what we start having, which are immersive venues that they have this very special business model that during daytime, they have an exhibition, they have an open exhibition with a wide range of different, very interesting audiences. And on the evening, just, with a couple of hours of technical change, they can do a live performance, a live show. Yeah. So this is something that really makes sense. And it's starting to grow because once you have installed the technology, everybody knows that every theater owner or theater manager that maybe now are seeing us, they know, okay, if I could fill the theater in the morning every day, if I could fill the theater in early afternoon every day, but I just can do the matinee, maybe on Friday, maybe on Saturday, maybe on Sunday, but maybe, just on the weekend, I do a couple of shows, but during weekdays, I just can have, one night show, or maybe on Monday and Tuesday, I'm closing because I'm not doing night shows. So, I mean, every theater owner, thinks about how can these theaters use during the day. When you have like an immersive, what I'm calling an immersive or a digital arts venue, you can get best from both worlds. You can have, this show that's been touring around the world. So with a high level of quality, high level of prestige, you can have it during daytime. And then you can have the next to normal or the next immersive show or the musical show or the music concert at night. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a way to all these black boxes that are around the world can be transformed in a way that makes sense in terms of program and in terms of business model.
There's a question that's related. What's your recommendation for the duration of performances and how many times during a day for repetition?
Yeah. What we tried with Next to Normal, it was 60 minutes. In fact, the show at the end was 75, more or less. And 75 it's good, yeah, because of the all the credits and everything, it was 75, but it was good. I think that more than 60, 75 minutes in these kind of venues makes people feel uncomfortable, because, and you need to think that the experience inside that kind of venue is like overwhelming. You have huge images surrounding you, particles and things happening around, live artists just a few meters from you. So it's like, that kind of duration is the one that I think that's really, really good and works under my experience. Maybe someone else can say another thing, but my experience is that. The good thing about that is that you can do a couple of shows or 3 shows a day if the show is working really well, because the show is so short that you can do, different repetitions that in a 2.5-hour traditional musical show, it is impossible. You can just double the show a couple of times a week.
Great. Jordi, we have about 14 minutes left, and I'd like to focus in on your current production of DALL-E Cybernetics.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us where the idea came from and a little bit about how you originated this production, your creative team, the creative process, and what's it like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy about this question, because this was our big project from the beginning. I mean, when we started working in immersive exhibitions, there were very few other examples around the world doing this kind of thing. So we said, we need to do something about ourselves. Yeah, we need to do something about an artist that we really can talk about, because, I mean, we produce The Producers as a musical, or we produce, I don't know, La Cage aux Folles, and it's great. But at the same time, La Cage aux Folles is talking about this kind of French North American culture. The Producers is a pure New York kind of story. So that's great. And we do the translation in Spanish, and that's good. But at the same time, talking about an artist that was born just a few minutes from here, and he grew here, and he's like a global known artist like DALL-E, it was something really important for us. But at the same time, we found this big problem in the beginning that everybody that wants to work with these big names finds, which is the traditional cultural and arts world don't really consider the digital art and the immersive experience as something with enough, let's say, artistic value to be involved in. I want to be more precise with this. Mm-hmm. When there were 2,000 different Van Gogh exhibitions touring the United States in 2020 or something, there were a lot of articles everywhere, the New York Times, Washington Post, everywhere, writing about, well, this is like the banalization of art. This is the frivolization of art. Nobody is really, interested in this. People are going there just to take Instagram pictures and all these things, which at one point is true. I mean, we're getting a kind of audience that maybe they will never go to, a traditional museum. I never think that this is something that's wrong. I think that is right. We're connecting a kind of audience that would never be going to a traditional place. But on the other hand, what really, makes me sad is that this big amount of people that considers this kind of, experiences or exhibitions as something that's not valuable in artistic terms, because we create new pieces of art. Yeah. So when we went to knock the door to the DALL-E Foundation, the owners of the whole rights of DALL-E's work, we said, okay, we are from Barcelona, so we can speak Catalan. So it's like there's no language or lost in translation kind of thing. So we're these guys from Barcelona. We did Monet, we did Klimt. Now we want to work with DALL-E because it's, we love that. And they said, no way. No way. I mean, this is a way to, let's say, take value out of the original art. People maybe are not going to the museum. Maybe, we need to be very sure that this is something that, how can we control, our, let's say, name? How can we control? What will you do? You will take the paintings of DALL-E and you will wrap them like in a different way, and you will cut them and split them and crop them. I mean, who do you think you are? I mean, these are masterpieces. These are painting masterpieces of the 20th century. Who do you think you are to cut all these things and make them move? And
yeah, George.
So so I was like, okay, I need to prepare a very good, not an elevator pitch. It would be like a whole cruise of a whole week pitch to explain to all these people that what we do is something meaningful, is something important, is something good, and it will be good for them. It will be good for general audience, and it will be good for the art in general. And we were investigating documentation about Dali's work. And we found this beautiful documentary shot in 1965 in New York, where a British journalist is asking to Dali, what is the future of art?
Oh,
And Dali, in 1965, said, I don't want to be an artist anymore. 65, yeah. I don't want to be, someone who works in painting or literature. I'm just interested in cybernetics, quantum physics, and biology. Dali said that, and we have the movie. It's not just something written, it's himself saying this. So I took this thing and we started investigating about how Dali was interested in technology, in cybernetics at that time, is what digital we consider today, like computer world and all this thing.
right.
So all the relationship between Dali and the digital art and the cybernetics and the artificial intelligence, and we created a whole exhibition called Dali Cybernetics, explaining the whole work of Dali, linking it with science and technology, because he was a huge fan of science and technology. And with this project, we convinced the Dali Foundation that this was an exhibition that was impossible to be done with original works,
Right.
because we were going beyond the original works and we were explaining a phase of this artist that nobody really knows. So that's why I'm really, interested in digital art and immersive experience as a next step of something. It's not a substitution of
Right.
traditional exhibitions. It's not a substitution of traditional museums. It's something different. It's adding a new layer of value.
I'm so glad, so happy to hear you say that, because I think many people just think of immersive as pretty pictures on the wall. And the artistic possibilities that are unique to the immersive paradigm are very considerable, and Dali is a perfect example. So now tell me, this Dali is not just projections. Is there also a VR component to it? Tell us about the layers.
Yeah, we have the big projection room. We have an hologram room, because Dali work with holograms, work with projections. But the big thing is the metaverse room. Yeah, we created a first metaverse room that now when I say it, I imagine people like doing like this metaverse again. What is that? So
Right.
it's difficult to explain if you don't experience that, but it's a live virtual reality experience that you share together with 50 more people. You can walk around in a free roaming experience inside Salvador Dali works. Dali explained in late 50s that he wrote that in the future we would have what he called a dream machine. This dream machine would be a machine that we had at home, and every day, he wrote, we would connect to this dream machine, and we will have like 6 minutes of connection between ourselves and our surrealist self.
Wow.
Yeah. So we created the Dali's dream machine. In fact, we're following the way he wrote the future of the art. Yeah. And I mean, for me, that is important. I mean, I'm not saying that all the digital and immersive experiences are good. In fact, I'm always, blaming these guys that I call pirates of the art, that they just buy 7 projectors and they project big kind of PowerPoint presentations in different walls, and they call it immersive experience, because this happens, and we need to admit that. I mean, it's not something, this happens. So, but the same way that we go to a movie theater or we go to a theater and we know that there are good movies and bad movies, there are good theater shows and bad theater shows, that there are good novels or bad novels, we will understand and we will learn as an audience in the future there are good immersive digital arts exhibitions are bad.
Right. And you're helping push that forward. So we have a couple of questions I want to get to. And of course,
Okay.
what's on a lot of people's minds is how much does it cost So could you compare the cost of producing an original immersive experience, like with the cost of maybe licensing it?
Yeah, of course. To produce a new show, like these big ones, like when you produce Dali or you produce Frida Kahlo, for example, you're near around 3 million, more or less. Yeah, talking about euros, because you have to think, Alan, that this is almost an audiovisual production. So you spend a lot of money with 3D effects, 3D artists. You create digital environments, and then you need to animate them, and then you need to create soundtracks and movements. And so it's in some ways more near to create a movie than create an exhibition. Yeah. So 3 million is the average budget for a first production. Then the good thing is that the running is not so high, because once you have built the place, you have the projectors, or you rent the projectors and you prepare the room, the running in the system that we have created is really easy, because I always say that our digital arts center, our audience attendance team, they arrive in the morning. There are no technical people. Because people can think that you need a lot of technical guys, and no technical people. You have just an iPad, you put play, and the whole exhibition works. And this is something that we created because we needed to create something easy to tour around the world.
Right.
Yeah, and to have in different places without spending a lot of money in technical. So the only cost that you have when you tour this kind of exhibition around is, of course, you need to build the place if you don't have it, or you need to rent, the projectors and the system, and then the royalty fee that you have for the show, which is not, a high amount of money, and it makes, for every promoter easy to do it.
Is it a percentage of ticket sales, or a flat amount, or a combination?
No. It's a percentage of. It's like, because as I said in the beginning, I'm coming from theater world, so I'm saying that I'm always doing something very similar from theater. So we're coming like, when you pay theater musical royalties, because I think that it's very similar. Yeah, it's very similar what we do. I mean, we have a content that we share.
Great. And the last question I'll give you is, you have an amazing network of artists.
Yeah.
What kinds of artists do you need to work with to make to create your vision, for example, for Dali or Frida?
Yeah, it's like the whole arc of artists from the beginning to the end, because you need script writers. Yeah, you need storyboarders. You need people that are able to create in fast images, the things that the curators, the commissioners, or, the artists have in mind. But then you enter into the digital production world. So you need 3D artists to create 3D models, but also you need animators. You need people working in sound effects, in soundtrack. You need editors, and you need, of course, a big team of technical, let's say, engineers that can make these things mix together and make it as easy as push 3 plays in an iPad to make the exhibition work. Yeah, so it's the whole arc, from the original idea, concept creation, and script writing until the last part, which is the final, venue and technical design that makes things work in an easy way. Yeah. I love to work with scenographers, some stage lighters, because I'm coming from this world, so I love to mix, some rooms of the exhibitions, like a theater scenography. So you mix the digital projections with some rooms that are really physical at some point, and then you go again into a metaverse room, and this kind of movement makes the show much more interesting.
Well, Jordi, thank you so much for being so generous with your time and your energy and your incredible entrepreneurial zeal. We're all we admire you so much, and we are expecting great things from you. If someone wants to get in touch with you, what should they do?
Yeah, maybe I can. I don't know if there's a lot of people here today, and I don't want to receive, but I can leave just my professional email here. And if anyone is really interested, in knowing a little bit more, or explaining a little bit more, so I can share it here, and it will be easy to reach me. I don't know if I will answer in a few days. Be patient. I always answer, but I take a little time. This is my email address, and I will be happy to to help you in anything you need. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jordi, and have a great evening, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Alan, for having me here today.